The After Credits cast is sponsored to you by Monarch. Monarch, when you hear a bump in the night, we'll be there. When you hear a roar in the darkness, we'll be there. And when you know too much, we'll be there too. You have been warned. Beyond logic lies truth. Monarch. Also brought to you by patreon.com/evacstation. If you want to support your local podcasters who talk about movies from around the world, it was just you give them a look. They're so desperate for money, they even had to make fake sponsors for their show. How pathetic. Again, that's patreon.com/evacstation. Throw them a bone, will ya? Now, on to the show. You know, we've been on this island for a while now, and I gotta say, it was real smart of that other guy to make that boat and get out of here when he could. We thought about making a podcast and putting it online. Would have gotten us out here a little faster. Joke's on us, I guess.
Foolish.
We are Aaron Wasescon. And with me today, I've got Rhonda Metters. Or Random Metters. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, how you doing? I'm hoping the audio picks it up really good.
I really do. I hope so too.
And I hope to God no one thinks you're just jacking it over there.
Oh no, guys. Redact that. No, fuck it. Monarch.
Oh, don't worry, Ryan. We're gonna be full of redactions tonight.
Jesus.
Speaking of redactions, our podcast is brought to you by Monarch, as well as patreon.com/evacstation. For less than the cost of, whatever it is you kids buy. Here it's, anal beads now. You can support our show, and by Jove, that's a lot cleaner and a lot more efficient than anal beads. I'll tell you that.
It's definitely more sanitary. Jesus.
It's definitely more sanitary. You can also go to YouTube to watch our show. You can go to Peepa, iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and TuneIn. And if you go to those platforms, please give us likes, give us 5 stars, whatever the rating system is. It helps us get more visibility with other people searching for podcasts like ours. And if you want to recommend our show to people, that's also good too. And of course, also you can follow us on, did I say Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr yet? I don't think I did.
I think so.
Alright, well, again, follow us there. You can follow us, leave messages, chat with us. There's an email too. Ryan, what is that email?
That email is fucking Sam Jackson starting fights with gorillas at gmail. I'm sorry. That is evacstation@gmail.com.
You might say he was Nick Furious.
I've had it with this motherfucking gorilla on this motherfucking deserted island.
I like it. Before we get too deep into our topic for the night, though, Ryan, what you been watching?
Going back to my discovery of all things YouTube, I actually went back to some stuff that I used to watch earlier on. I don't know if you're familiar with a channel called College Humor. Are you?
I am. I'm very much am.
Right. So I went back to look at a couple of old skits of theirs, and to my beloved surprise, they are still making new content, and some of that shit is really, really funny. The thing that really caught my eye is they actually did a fake PSA from that's one of that series, but they did a fake PSA from the CEO of the company I actually work for. And oh my god, I almost pissed myself laughing. It was that funny. It was done by one of, I think, the funniest writers and actors in their troupe thus far. And holy shit, the guy is just on a roll. Oh god, please guys, check it out if you can. You are due for a fantastic time.
It's like College Humor doesn't always hit the mark for me, but when it does, they usually do a really good job. So my week, Ryan, so before I get to my movie, I just want to say, I've been following some news around, various news articles about, recent video game stuff, because I follow video game news. I'm a video gamer, in case those listening don't know. And, there's that news about the Activision firings and all that stuff, and all I can say about that is hashtag fire Bobby Kotick, and also that, guys, maybe think about what games you're buying and what you're getting them from, because some of those big companies, they don't need it.
They don't deserve your money. Stop rewarding their failures.
Mm-hmm. You can always spend your money at evacstation, patreon.com/evacstation. But if that's not going to be good for you, just be selective with your games. Don't just buy the biggest, flashiest Call of Duty, because Activision doesn't need that money anymore. They really don't. But to distract myself, Ryan, from all these bad news deals with the layoffs in various industries. Actually, what's funny is there's layoffs all over the fucking place lately. It's driving me crazy just reading all this stuff. But to distract me from the sad layoffs around the world and around the country, I watched one of the Oscar movies that came out, or that was discussed this past weekend.
Ooh, pray tell, which one did you watch?
Also, I want to say that this past weekend for us was literally like middle of February still, and you guys are going to listen to this in, I think, June?
Cagliostro!
Cagliostro. I watched Black Klansman.
Really? Oh my goodness. Okay, how did you like it? Because I haven't seen it yet.
So, it's actually been on my shortlist for things to watch for a while. It was recommended to me by the Film Joy channel, and I've also been interested since I saw a review way back when, but I could never get Amanda to go to the theater to see it. I'm like, that's fine. It may not be a theater. It may not be a theater movie. It doesn't seem like it's going to be like a big spectacle film. I get that. And we don't want to go to theaters too often. It gets pricey, so I get it. So I made a mission that I wanted to see this before the Academy Awards, because I'm like, you know what? I've only seen Black Panther, and while I like Black Panther, I personally don't think it's my favorite film of the year. I want to see one of these other contenders and see what they bring to the table first.
That's fair.
And so I wanted to at least see the one I knew I wanted to see the most, and that was this one. And I stress this, and it's going to sound weird when I say this, but this movie's a lot of fun. And I know it sounds weird to say a movie about the black cop infiltrating the KKK on part of some kind of like sting operation sort of thing shouldn't sound like a fun idea, because it's got a lot of dramatic tension. It's got a lot of like heavy moments to it for sure, but it's a good time all the same. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the actors they picked to play the Klansmen are fucking hysterical at playing these idiotic but still like threatening bad guys. It's great. I don't know if you know the casting at all, Ryan, but the guy who's the Grand Wizard of this clan for this particular film is none other than Eric Foreman.
I thought it was fucking Topher Grace. Oh my god.
And seeing him say all these outrageously racist things and still see him as Eric Foreman but just older is the most hysterical thing in the fucking world to me.
Oh my god.
But no, it's a good story with a dour ending. It's not sad, but just one of those endings where like, oh, so this is just like The Imitation Game or Hidden Figures, where these guys did a good, but no one gives a shit.
Yeah.
And yeah, it really just reminds you that history is written by the winners, and in more recent years, the powerful white men in charge of writing history.
Yeah, I mean, it's Spike Lee. He's not gonna shy away from saying, from telling a good story and be like, "Hey guys, by the way, I mean, history, like this place is real bad in some aspects."
Well, I did some research on it too. Jordan Peele actually was one of the producers for this. He actually pitched the idea to Spike Lee first, and Spike Lee didn't even believe him and this was a thing. And then after doing some research, he's like, "Oh shit, we have to do this."
Nice. I really like hearing stories like that. That's really cool.
So, like, yeah, I'm not even the biggest Spike Lee fan. I don't hate him, but I don't really click with all of his movies. But this really clicked for me. I like it. So, yeah. I will say this much. Of the two movies I saw for the Oscars, I feel like this is the one that got robbed.
Damn. Okay, what's the other one you saw?
Well, I mean, I saw Black Panther as well. So.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay.
And I feel like if any of the two of them were going to win this one over Green Book, this should have been it. Like Black Panther is still a good film and all that stuff, but I think this one, I feel like this one means more, like it has a much like harder hitting, deeper message. But I get Black Panther is probably more digestible to wider audiences. So it's your choice there, I guess. But I feel like Black Klansman really like hits that nail on the head a lot harder and with a lot more precision.
I think it's more the cultural and social aspect, like impact that Black Panther had, like overall, that really got it the nomination.
I think so too.
Like we can have that discussion a different day, but yeah, I also want to check out some of the other ones, including Green Book. I still need to check it out because it's got my boy Cottonmouth in it. I definitely have to see it just because he's in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna hopefully get to Bohemian Rhapsody and maybe Vice before too long, because those are also in the list. And I really and I like Queen music, so Bohemian Rhapsody is probably my next one, probably.
Yeah, I think I'll check that out soon too.
This is a longer little chat than I wanted to go to, but it was a good movie. I highly recommend it if you haven't had a chance to see it. With that, Ryan, let's jump into our next segment. Well, I guess not next segment, but the introduction to our whole episode. Welcome back to the Kingdom of Monsters, and this week we'll be looking at 2017's Kong Skull Island.
He's not a king yet.
Directed by Jordan. How do you pronounce that? It's not Voight, right? It's like
Vogt.
Jordan Vogt Roberts, and written by Dan Gilroy and Max Borenstein, or Bornstein, however you want to pronounce it. I'm sure this. Yeah. The film boasts a worldwide gross of $566,652,000, which is 3 times what it costs.
It's roughly something about hitting triple the amount that it takes to make with these movies.
I think the bigger budget films are going to have a harder time getting past that 3 times mark.
I mean, that's still a kick-ass return on investment.
Oh, it really is. But it's not going to be, the Blumhouse Productions turnaround, because that's literally how they do it. It's like, oh, hey, this movie's $1 million. Here we go. Oh, hey, we got $20 million back. That's great.
Yep.
The cast includes a mess of fun guys, and I actually do mean all these guys are pretty fun. We have Corey Hawkins, John Ortiz, Toby Kebbell, Jason Mitchell, Shay Wynnum, Thomas Mann, John Goodman. Love him.
Fucking Goodman.
John Goodman's great. And of course, the Marvel crew of John C. Reilly, Brie Larson, Samuel L. Jackson, and the trickster himself, Tom Hiddleston.
I didn't realize it until you just made mention of it. But yeah, no, they have a good portion of a Marvel cast in there.
I need to go back to the Godzilla script real quick, because I think a name just popped up that was in both of them. Unless I'm... Okay, no, it's not the same name, but it's the same last name. Okay, never mind. I saw Corey Hawkins, I'm like, I think that name's familiar, and then the other one's Sally Hawkins, so... But yeah, no, a lot of names here that I'm familiar with, for sure. And I want to do a correction to myself real quick. So, 2 or 3 months ago, Ryan, we discussed the movie Room, which I said Brie Larson, it was my first time seeing a movie with her in it.
Right, I agree. I agree with your correction here.
Yep. And I forgot that Brie Larson was in this movie, and I had seen this before Room. And so when I came back to this, I'm like, oh, she's in this too. Fuck, I'm an idiot.
Hey, I completely forgot she was in it too.
So, correction on my part there, but it's not like it's the end of the world. I saw another Brie Larson movie a few months ago, in case you guys haven't heard about it. It's called Captain Marvel. So go check out that podcast right over there if you want to. The awards. There's an award for this movie. This was nominated for several awards, but it only received a golden trailer for the best teaser poster. With that, we go back to Ryan over at the Fun Fact Science Corner.
Fun Fact Science Corner, because fun is a science over here at Monarch. More fun names. I know this.
We haven't said his name in a good while.
Yeah. Okay. Hayao Miyazaki. Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke from 1997 helped influence the design and approach of the monsters in this film. Jordan Vogt Roberts stated, Miyazaki's Princess Mononoke was actually a big reference in the way that the spirit creatures sort of have their own domains and fit within that. So a big thing was trying to design the creatures that felt realistic and could exist in an ecosystem that felt sort of wild and out there. And then also design things that simultaneously felt beautiful at the same time. However, the biophysical analysis of Kong and the other creatures concludes that, although biophysically they are viable, the ecosystem of the island could not support them. We'll get that shit in post. Don't worry about it. Now, next up, the two-armed pit lizard from King Kong, 1933, was used as a reference for skull crawlers because that name sounds cool. It's the first time I said it out loud. They were also inspired by several other cinematic creatures. Director Vogt Roberts stated that creature, beyond being a reference to a creature from the 1933 version, is also this crazy fusion of all the influences throughout my life. The first angel from Neon Genesis Evangelion, and No Face from Spirited Away, as well as Cubone from Pokemon. Dear God, that is a terrifying rendition of Cubone. I just caught it. Oh my God.
It's Cubone's mega form.
It's his fucking like his X evolution, like whatever the fuck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Marowak, and then you hit him with the Z Stone, and then it fucking has a nightmare in the middle of its evolution, and it becomes that. The last bit is that the freighter Wanderer that apparently crashed ashore in 1933 shares a name with the ship from King Kong of the same year. So it's a nice little tidbit for you old movie buffs out there that caught that.
Man, can you believe King Kong is like that old though, from 1933? Well,
I can.
It just feels like so long ago. All right. With that, Ryan, let's get some initial thoughts out of the way. I'll jump in first, give you a break from talking real quick. I think it's a very pretty movie, and it has a lot of fun people in it. And I'll admit that the movie is, on the whole, a little like dumb, but it's like dumb fun. Like it's got me excited for this MonsterVerse more than I thought it'd be by this point.
You think it's dumb?
Aww. Like, let's be fair. I think it's a fun movie, a great time to have, but in terms of, like, taking something, like, meaningful away from it, there's not a whole lot here.
That's fair. It's definitely not a deep film. It's more exciting and fun. It's a blockbuster as opposed to, like, the meaning of life here. That's
how about you? How about you? Where you fall on this one?
I forgot just how much I liked this movie. I thought it was very, very well done. I thought for what it was attempting to, what it set out to do and what it set out to be, I feel like it knocked it out of the park. It was its own self-contained story about that actually got to some of the deeper references and like it talked about people's reactions and mental states from the Vietnam War. It got into a soldier's mentality. It got into this sense of exploration, this sense of being caught in the past. You know, it actually did a lot of fun things on top of being a kick-ass monster movie and having Kong as a young ape beating the shit out of a bunch of things and throwing trees like javelins to catch fucking helicopters out of the sky. Shit was cool.
I'll say, and we'll get to it in a little bit, but I really like Samuel L. Jackson's story arc. I think it's actually probably my favorite part of the movie.
Me too. Holy shit.
With that in mind, let's jump into a synopsis here, why don't we?
I'm ready.
Some guys in World War II crash on a few strange islands away from where Wolverine is shooting his second solo film. Just as they're about to kill each other, because it's war after all, a giant, redacted, appears and shows them the title of the film. Oh boy, this again. We cut to Bill Randa, or is it Randa? I think it's Randa.
I think it's Randa.
And his assistant, Black Smithers, as they push to get government approval for their trip to Redacted Island. Loveliest time of year. They want to go find monsters and say if they don't get there now, the Russians will do it first. Scared of the Soviets, the government agrees and gives them the funding to support from the military outfit led by one Colonel Packard. It's full of colorful, one-dimensional military characters you've seen in the likes of Aliens. Randa also hires James Conrad because we needed a hero with a troubled past. And also, Mason Weaver is hired on to document their findings, but she seems kind of like an afterthought in the hiring process, if we're being honest. I didn't even know she was a girl until, she shows up. Everyone gets on the boat and gets debriefed about their suspicious mission, with little concrete details. No one really trusts what's going on or what they're being told. I remind you, you can trust this week's sponsor, Monarch. If you see something suspicious, if you see some suspicious activity or a dangerous gigantic life form, please report to your nearest detention center for immediate brain flossing. Now back to the synopsis.
Remember, beyond logic lies truth.
Monarch. They arrive on the island and start blowing stuff up. Redacted shows up and is a little bit peeved that they trash his home. A reasonable response. Yeah, I'd say it's fair. Packard vows revenge on Redacted for killing his men, who were clearly in the wrong for blowing stuff up. Mm-hmm. The group of survivors regroup, and each with their own goals in mind. Conrad and Weaver aim for a refuel rendezvous. Packard aims for bigger weapons to kill Redacted. And a guy named Chapman looks for a good place to die because he'll be too busy playing Redacted for the movie to bother with him doing anything else relevant. As you can guess, Benny died in the process, and our protagonists, the ones with the full names, meet up and with our World War II hero, Hank Marlowe. He has a boat and is ready to escort them off this hellhole. He also gives them some plot details about the skull crawlers who appear in this film, but who appear in this film as he mentions them, and Redacted being a god to the mute people of the island. All the characters reunite after the boat is fixed up. Packard has still got a boner for murder and says he cannot leave until taking revenge on Redacted. He sets up a trap for Redacted. With all the soldiers he has left, Conrad and Weaver try to stop him. Redacted is severely injured, and the wild giant skull crawler has appeared. Leaving Packard's crazy ass behind, everyone scrambles to the boat for a big escape. A fight scene happens in which Redacted employs some Mortal Kombat moves. Probably hopes to be added to MK11, like everyone else does.
Fatality.
He saves the humans, kills the skull crawler, and resumes watching the island. The humans sail home. Marlowe reunites with his family after 30 years, and both Conrad and Weaver are taken to an undisclosed location which has been redacted from this synopsis. Apparently set up for a sequel.
So, all right, boys. That was a good take. You guys can head on home. Please.
Listen, guys, I know you guys have got a job to do, but if you could just step out for a few minutes, I'm actually going to piss on the floor here, and I'm a little shy with guys watching. So if you Ryan's fine, okay? He's like a brother to me, but you guys still new. I can't do it with you guys watching, so please just step out. Thank you. So Ryan, what do you think of the movie?
Oh man, so yes, I really like this movie. I truly enjoyed this movie. I'm gonna jump right to what I like. I'm gonna jump right to the biggest thing that actually I loved about the movie, which I was referencing last week, in the role of humans in this movie. I feel like this movie does it right, and the reason why I think, or at least a big reason why, is because the humans have something to do that is separate from the main monster of the movie. If you're just putting humans against Kong wins fucking instantly. No question.
Could Kong beat Batman though? Come on now.
Actually, that'd be a damn good fight. I mean, anyway, damn it, you're not gonna distract me. So by putting the humans on this island and also having bigger, dangerous creatures that they can clash with and it not be stupidly one-sided, it adds some tension to their plight in the midst of them exploring this island and trying to find a way off. And then, as they're going through that, navigating it, they also learn about the island that they came to. They learn about the natural inhabitants. They learn about Kong and how Monarch was essentially the dickholes who decided to show up on this place and start bombing it just to get Kong to show up and say, "Yo, what the fuck are you doing?" So, like, they come to realize that they were in the wrong, and they work to save Kong as Kong saves them from the giant skull crawler. So, by giving the humans an actual storyline that they can follow, that's intriguing, that gives them some danger that they can also navigate without just coming in direct conflict with the big monsters, I think it keeps you engaged in their story and allows you to stay present for some of the more subtle things that they're trying to tell, like this asshole general who's mad that the war is ending and has found one more enemy that he can kill, or these really like these lovable like soldiers that were 2 days from going home, and then their asshole general kind of got the majority of them killed because he wanted to fight one more time. You can pay attention to that because you're present for their story.
You know what's funny is I made a very subtle red versus blue joke at the expense of Packard in the synopsis. But what's funny is he actually is Sarge to a T. He wants to fight and have more things to kill. It's just hilarious how on spot that is.
Yeah.
But no, going back to your point about the balance of humans, I know we want to talk about Packard, but I just want to address that first bit real quick. No, I think this film is definitely a better balance. I think there's a few reasons why that you didn't touch on. Number one is you see Khan at the beginning of the film. And
yes.
You establish that he is here, this is his movie, fuck off with anything else, this is my movie, bitches. And you don't see a lot of him, you don't see a huge deal, but you see enough to know that he is going to be a relevant part of the movie.
Yes.
So that alone helps establish exactly what we're going to get. Number two is, as you were kind of saying, the humans have a more interesting arc to do. If you go back to Godzilla, the main arc for Aaron Taylor Johnson's character, whose name I don't remember at the moment, Ford. His entire arc was literally just go get my dad and then come home. There's a little bit more nuance to it, sure, but his main arc is literally just trying to get home. In this film, you have 2 or 3 separate teams, basically, which kind of just boil down to 2 if you really think about it. Each of them with their own arc. You have the main heroes who are trying to get everyone off the island. It's typical Jurassic Park escape plan, basically. And then you have Packard, who has his own story arc. And like we said already, it is the most interesting story arc, and it's one that we don't really get to see much of in these kind of movies. Mm-hmm. Because in most of these big action films, like the Transformers, like the former Godzilla we saw last week, they glorify and follow the military in a very kind of realistic way, where it's supposed to like kind of help show how good they are, how organized they are, how tough they are, and how resourceful they are. And a lot of that's because, the military wants to sign on for these films, so they don't want to look like idiots, so they want to make sure that, they're being represented properly. That's fine. But I like that this movie chose Vietnam. It was a great choice for this, too.
I love the fact that they chose Vietnam as the backdrop for this.
Yeah, because it allows the soldiers to be morally ambiguous. Kind of like World War I, except this is solely on Americans' moral ambiguity. Because it was a war that was very controversial for us. It's a war that, is arguably we lost, we abandoned it, whatever you want to call it. And there's just a lot of, gray area to it. And it really allows someone like Packard to really just blossom into this fucking hilariously awesome character. Yes. Because he's got moments of just being, a complete dickhead to moments where he's, you generally can sympathize with him for moments. And it's okay.
They're, fleeting. They're, No, you can see where they take root, but then that you're compared with, the long-ass scenes where Kong is pretty much engulfed in fire, and Packard's staring at him with this fucking murder heart on, and it's just yeah, no, he just wanted to fight. He just wanted to kill this dude.
Well, it kind of it doesn't feel like it harkens back to I think the book is called Heart of Darkness, isn't it? A little bit, where you have this commander who kind of goes a little cuckoo.
Right.
And it's kind of like that a little bit, where it's this guy starts off with arguably noble intentions of, hey, my soldiers are killed by this thing that you are responsible for. I'm going to take it out because it needs to go down before it hurts anyone else. And then it evolves into, I want to kill this thing because it's the big fight that I need to feel like I'm still alive. Because we lost Vietnam. Because you could even see that in the arc too. in the beginning of the movie when he's questioned about Vietnam and says that someone asked
We didn't
about
lose
losing
it.
the war.
We didn't lose the war. We abandoned it.
Yep, and then at the end of the film, like near the end of his time on the film, he does admit to losing the war, or he at least says that line somewhere, like we lost the war, and it's like so he grows as a character, but in a very regressive kind of way, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
I know, I gushed on him a little bit too much.
No. I'm completely right. I'm right there with you. Honestly, like everything they were doing around like the symbology, the symbolism around the Vietnam War and how it affects on each one of these characters was really, really cool. I really liked the interplay between Packard and the photographer, Captain Marvel.
Mason. Yep.
Mason. Yeah. But you know this idea that she's an anti-war photographer and how like when they first meet, he's like, it's people that like you that lost support for the war back home, and you know you can already tell like he's going to be dismissive of her point of view because she comes at it from an entirely different perspective, and that scene like towards the end of it where like they're standing trying to get him to trying to keep him from blowing up Kong, and she says the world is bigger than this. He's like, bitch, please. I that was one of the funniest moments in the movie, but it was such a stark portrayal of how far gone, how separate their positions were, and it paints like a really good portrait of like many different views of that war and pretty much of like mankind's place in kind of the food chain, because you have people who are willing to accept that the world is much bigger and that we need to find where we fit in it as opposed to just forcing our will onto everything, and then you have other people who think otherwise.
Mm-hmm. And I wanted to, again, last week I said that Bryan Cranston, great actor, love him, one of my favorites, and I put him in the bubble. I'm not going to put anyone in a bubble this week because I don't think we need to. But Samuel L. Jackson's probably in that same short list of actors who I just absolutely love watching and will pick up anything they're in because it's just there's so much of it.
He's just so much fun.
They're a treat to watch.
So much fun.
Like he brings this weird like level of like intensity to his roles. Like it's either he's got like a bit of a goofy persona to it or he's intense with it. And his intense roles are where he really shines.
Yep.
Like,
no doubt.
Like, I can go on forever about how great he was in both the Tarantino movies I saw him in. Hateful Eight and Django Unchained. I still need to go back and watch Pulp Fiction. I really do.
You have you never seen Pulp Fiction?
It's dude, I just bought it, like, for, like, $2 at a store. I'm going to try to get that here as soon as possible.
Sir! Jules Winfield! I have that fucking monologue memorized, man. Come on.
I will say this. My parents were never big into Tarantino, so I didn't get to see him much until after I left the house for college. And my first experience seeing a Tarantino film was Inglourious Basterds, which, admittedly, it's fine. Not my favorite one, though. It's definitely not like Django or Hateful Eight. Those two are still, like, they're tops. They're really good.
Right.
I did go back and eventually watch Reservoir Dogs, so the buddy of mine loaned it to me and said, you have to watch this. I have to get through his other stuff. I really do, though, because he's got a lot of good stuff. So much good stuff.
Good lord, sir.
Hey, man, I can't help what I'm exposed to until, like, after college.
I understand.
Okay. Let's get back to the Skull Island here.
Sorry.
So, we talked about the setting, and we like it. We talked about Packard, and we like the character. We don't necessarily like what he does. Okay, let's switch gears to visual stuff real quick.
All right.
This movie is pretty. It is fucking gorgeous in almost every shot.
It's super pretty. You are correct. I'm a little jealous because I watched it with Allegra. But we were. She's in North Carolina right now, so we were talking over the phone while watching it simultaneously. But this movie she actually saw while she was in Vietnam.
Whoa.
Yeah, like when she was teaching English a couple years ago. She actually saw it when it came out in Vietnam, and she actually saw it in 4D. Have you heard of this movie-going experience?
That's like the D-Box thing, isn't it?
Kind of. It's where they take the extra steps of like actually really immersing you in it. So they have like the surround sound. They have the chairs that move and vibrate when like crazy shit goes down. They have the wind blowing when like people are falling through the air. They have the slight misting of water when they're like in the ocean or some shit. It's all like designed to really like bring you into it aside from just the sight and sounds. And she said this was the perfect movie to actually see in 4D because the ecosystem of the island had so much stuff and it was so well designed that it could be really immersive with something like that. So I'm kind of jealous that I didn't get to see that.
I'll have to try one of these 4Ds out at some point. Give me more D, everybody. I want to see all the Ds.
You heard it here first. Aaron wants the D.
To be fair, I've probably put myself in that hole a few times with jokes like that. But no. So the visuals of this movie, the best comparison I can make offhand is the scene on the Ego Planet in Guardians 2. It's a very well done CGI like masterpiece in terms of like just the jungle, the setting. I'm sure it's not all CGI, but there's still a fair bit of it, and it just looks really good. It comes together really well. And I love the creatures you eventually see, like the elk with the multiple horns and covered in vines, or the giant spider bamboo.
Yeah, the bamboo spider was so goddamn well designed.
And like it helped that these things blend into their environment so well that it allowed the scene to really just kind of again sell you on the reality of this island, because it's. And yes, I know we had the fun fact that said they biophysically couldn't exist, yada, yada, yada. That's not the point. The point is that they visually and thematically fit in this island so well that you could easily buy into what they're selling. It's a very good suspension of disbelief here.
Yes.
Now, if you're a scientist who wants to argue with us, I want to remind you that Monarch says that science is not real. Moving on. Okay, so last week we asked if the question... Did it take too long to get to the monster mash? Ryan, do you think this film escalates too quickly to the action?
I don't, actually. I really, really like the way they did it. And one of the things that I love about this movie is that it knows, it possesses a level of self-awareness. It doesn't try to build up the action or the storyline too much outside of outside of Skull Island. They know what we're here for. They're like, yo, we want to get to this island. It's isolated. It's got its own ecosystem that's kind of done crazy shit, and we want to get there. We want to see what the fuck is up. And all of the story, the plot that builds to getting to that island, it's done so efficiently and so brisk at a pace. I feel like the pace is really, really nice that it establishes. All the way to the point where they get the tracker, and it just like it cuts to him at a pool hall. It shows him in a fight because we have to establish that he's actually kind of a badass. Then they sit down and have a drink with him, and he's like, okay, you want me to take you on a deserted island? Let me tell you all the ways you're going to die, because this is a bad idea. Like, it does it so well, and I think it hurries us along to the stuff that we want to see, but I never felt rushed in the early act of that movie.
Yeah, I would say that it kept a very brisk pace, trying to get all the character introductions out of the way, the exposition out of the way, and compared to Godzilla, it is definitely a refreshing briskness.
Definitely.
I would say I would have enjoyed maybe a few more minutes, like just taking in the island's atmosphere before jumping straight to the action. But I don't think it was necessary, and I think what we got is still really good.
Yeah, I honestly didn't need it. I was perfectly fine because you got the visual stun, like the visual like mastery of seeing them fly through the storm. Then you got to see the island in all its beauty, like as they were flying over it. You had those visual moments where she was taking pictures with the army guys, like the 70s. Of course, you get all those shots, and you get her taking shots of the island. And then we're going to skip to with no interruption in like the flow of the movie, we get to them bombing the island. I thought it was a really great transition, and it kept it at that same kind of joyous pace and like tone, even as they're bombing the fucking island, so that when Kong shows up and starts knocking them out of the sky, it's so abrupt that it really pulls you right into the action. So I like that.
So I want to get two things real quick. First off, remind me about that scene in a second here, because I want to make a brief aside. I think the reason that I think the pacing is only like a minute bit off, and I'm not saying it's bad, but like I said, the whole want to take in the island war is because my mind, when we're first coming to this island on the helicopters, you've seen all these like big hillsides and mountains. Mm-hmm. My mind's immediately like, okay, I'm getting like nostalgia trips back to Jurassic Park. And my first thing is we need to see like a giant, like peaceful dinosaur before we do any action. We need to establish this island isn't horrible. But no, going back to the scene that you're talking about with the Kong attacking after the slow-mo bombing sequence. I think the slow-mo bombing sequence is spectacularly good for more than just the visuals. I think because it harkens back a lot of visual motif, I guess is the best way to put it, to Vietnam footage, Vietnam War, glorifying the war itself. Because you have to admit, it does make bombing the shit out of an island seem like a lot of fun.
Yeah, it does.
and I remember watching Platoon and various other Vietnam-inspired pieces where they weren't necessarily saying that war was good, but when you got to the action bits, they made it gave you this feeling of like glorifying the war, even though the overall message was not that. And I feel like that might be what this scene kind of is sort of representing. Like, it's supposed to be like, these guys are trying to show off how tough they are. It's supposed to glorify war for like this brief minute before Khan slaps them down. It's like, no, this is bullshit. You fuck off.
Well, yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from there, and I think they're really skillful in how they manage to paint that. Like, they have the fun scene where they're on the aircraft carrier, and Mason is taking the pictures of the soldiers goofing off. Then we maintain that kind of that sense of that kind of like nervous energy as they take off and they fly into the storm. And then they break through, they see the daylight, they see the beautiful island, they're all happy to be alive, and this place is gorgeous, and then we're going to drop some bombs on it, and nobody's going to bat an eye because you're just right in the moment of like, we're still alive and this place is beautiful, that nothing else kind of disturbs that until Kong fucking javelins a tree into you.
Well, and it's kind of like a metaphor for the Vietnam War, you might say.
Yeah.
Because Vietnam, prior to our involvement, was a very beautiful place. And from what I understand, it still mostly is. These beautiful jungles, this beautiful backdrop. Yes, there's, dark shit going on in the background, because that's what the war was all about. But the point is, it still is a beautiful place. And then the Americans come in, they bomb some shit out. It doesn't go well for him, because then this dude who fights them with literal guerrilla warfare brings them down to their knees.
Fucking guerrilla warfare, you bastard!
I wasn't planning to make the pun going into it, but as soon as I saw it, I'm like, I gotta drive right into that.
You bastard!
But no, I think it's all just a visual metaphor for the Vietnam War, and I think it hits home really well. If there's any people who are like more Vietnam War buffs and history buffs than we are, definitely hit us up with your thoughts on it, because I really do think it hits that home pretty strong. Okay, jumping to a couple other bits here. This is going to be like a double whammy here for you, Ryan. Number one, do any creatures other than Kong stick out on the island to you at all? And then follow that up with, do the skull crawlers work for you at all?
Man, so I mean, my personal favorite monster aside from Kong was the goddamn bamboo spider, because it was
agreed.
It was so perfect. It was so perfect.
I hate spiders, but that one really does a good job being a spider.
It did such a great job being a spider. Oh my god, no, it was just like, cause being in the middle of a bamboo forest is like so like encompassing, and then all of a sudden one of the bamboo spires is gone, and you're like, wait, what the fuck? And then somebody gets spired with the fucking bamboo, and you look up, and some of these bamboo spires are legs of a giant spider. That's such amazing design. It's so good. I was eating that up with a spoon.
It's letting the environment tell the story more than anything else, and that's something you don't see too often in big budget like productions like this. So it was really refreshing to see that.
Yeah, that was really well done. It was super well done. So going back to the second part of your question, I actually really dig the designs of the skull crawlers, particularly the big one. I think my favorite thing about the big skull crawler was the design of its maw and all of the inward-facing sharp-ass teeth.
I actually caught that this time, too, yeah.
Because it has a row of, like, really sharp, jagged teeth, like, on the outset to, like, latch on, but the majority of, like, its most terrifying fangs were inside and they were slanted in towards its throat. And as I looked at it, I was just like, that's a crazy-ass design. Why? And then I realized that if something gets caught in it, it's not getting out. It's just not. So I really like the forethought of that design.
I think definitely like the maw of those creatures, the jawline and all that stuff, that all works really good. I don't particularly find the exterior design super interesting. I think it's fine for what we're doing here, but I wouldn't mind something a bit, I wouldn't say flashier, but something that definitely stands out a bit more. These things definitely, again, felt kind of in its same design mold as Cloverfield and as the Mudos from the previous film. And I don't know, I feel like there's enough similarities visually to me, where I'm like, I wouldn't have minded a little bit different coloration or maybe a little bit different design in terms of like how their appendages work. Because they feel very similar. They feel very similar.
I do like that these creatures were scalable, though, and that you could have the smaller ones be big and terrifying, but not so big that humans couldn't actually deal with it. So I like that they had a scalable design for these monsters, because you had the smaller ones that were still, like, terrifying in their own right, yet a group of humans could actually deal with one or two of them. And then you had the big one that Kong was going to have to put down.
It was interesting to see the humans actually take down one of these things, because I don't think we've seen that in a like kaiju production outside of Pacific Rim, where the humans can actually bring one of these things down on their own. And it's just kind of nice to see that, hey, they aren't completely helpless, which I think is another benefit, another positive for this film.
Yeah,
is they make the humans not only like have interesting story arcs, but they actually do kind of do some useful shit during the film.
You got to give your humans actually like interesting shit to do. That's like that. That's one of the big things that I think is like that's one of the big things I think they got right in balancing the human content of the movie. They actually give the humans not only a great storyline, but competency enough and problems slightly small enough that they can deal with while also it being exciting and like tension racketing.
Okay, so last two questions here. Thoughts on Khan himself? Because we didn't really talk about him too much outside of just like the balance of the film and the environment. We didn't really talk about the monkey himself. So, what are your thoughts? Do you think this Kong's done pretty well? What works? What doesn't?
I think Kong has done pretty well. Allegra actually pointed something out to me that I didn't realize at the first time I saw it, but it actually makes a lot more sense. She pointed out that a lot of his mannerisms are of a young ape, like in how he acts and reacts to things. He moves and reacts like a young ape. So, it's made mention in the film that Kong is the last one of his kind, but he's still growing. It actually puts that in a different light, because this is actually a young ape. And since he survives this movie, spoiler alert, since he survives this movie and it was set back in the 70s, the King Kong that we're gonna see in like 2021 is more than likely gonna be this Kong, just like 40 years older and is gonna be much more massive and much more powerful. So I think it's really cool that they showed Kong as a babby, for lack of a better word, while still like showing him to be like powerful and like agile and like smart and really really cool. It makes me excited for what he's gonna look like when he's king.
And another fun fact I looked up when researching this episode is that despite the fact he's a baby, or a lot younger than King Kong ends up being, this is actually the largest Kong representation in film thus far.
Really?
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
If you do a side-by-side scaling between him and the humans and whatnot, he is the biggest one.
Now that's really really cool, because when you think about it, like when you think about the size of Godzilla in last week's movie, like how are you gonna have a King Kong that has trouble scaling a building, or like can scale a building, like face off against Godzilla, who himself is building size? You know what I mean?
Well, luckily, Ryan, the people at Monarch have already researched a lot of this stuff, and they have found ways to make that happen. We'll get all those answers in 2020, 2021, whenever it comes out.
Pay no attention to the growth hormones that you see them bringing to Skull Island. Don't worry about that.
Growth hormones? Those are just vitamins. Yep.
Yes.
Monarch vitamins.
Vitamins.
Yeah, if you want to get your hands on some Monarch vitamins, make sure you go to patreon.com/evacstation. We're not selling drugs. We are not selling drugs.
We're really not, guys. We're really not.
Okay. Last question. The post-credit scene. Is the cone still up? The cone's still up. Okay, so we could talk about it. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the post-credit scene?
I remember being very, very excited about it when I originally saw it. This time around, there's a part of me that feels like it's a little overdone. You know what I mean? Because I mean, like the people who, I remember going and seeing Skull Island for the first time, and not realizing that it was a sequel to Godzilla, and hadn't.
Well, actually, it's more like a prequel, really.
Well, yeah, it's more like a prequel. You're right. But like, I remember going there and not realizing it until the after credit scene, and I felt like a moron because watching them side by side, like I did this past time, like the company Monarch is so fucking prevalent that it's definitely a clear connection.
They're not prevalent at all. You barely noticed them.
Nope, they're you're right. They're just so in the scene, like behind the scenes. It's almost like they blend into the wallpaper.
Mm-hmm. Wait, did that wallpaper just look at me? Now we're good.
Pay no attention. Pay no attention.
But no, I'll go off on that. I think that really they only should have just done the Monarch connections, and when they finally do reveal like the overall like connected universe, I would say in Kingdom of Kingdom of Monsters this year, that would have been a good time to reveal, hey, all this is connected, and shit's about to go down next year or whenever the next one comes out. That would have been a proper build-up. I think that I don't hate this post-credit scene.
Me neither.
I think it's fine. I think it makes sense to have some kind of like explanation as to what happens to Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson.
Like if they only made reference to Godzilla, or they like showed a picture of like a rendition of Godzilla and been like, Kong's not the only king, and then they showed a picture of Godzilla. That's all we needed. We didn't need them to. What?
Actually, I'll counter that one. I don't think it should have shown Godzilla. I
Really?
think that it should have been implied Godzilla was going to be there by showing one of his other enemies, like King Ghidorah. That way, it's like, he's not the only king out there, and then you show King Ghidorah, who actually has the title, and you're like, oh shit, he's going to fight King Ghidorah. Oh shit, no, he's connected to Godzilla. Oh shit. Let people make their own connections and imply the deeper lore there versus going straight to it.
Some people don't know who King Ghidorah is, though. That's why.
Ryan,
I would just say, if you're only going to show one, I'd show Godzilla, let it be real quick, and then end it. That's all you need.
Counterpoint. One, the internet exists. People can look it up. And two, And two, how many people knew about how many people were really that familiar with the Avengers when Samuel L. Jackson dropped that at the end of Iron Man? Comic book fans, sure.
So many people knew who the Avengers were. Come on.
Comic book fans for sure, because they've read the comics. But people who are not familiar with the comics at all, who maybe have only heard of like Spider-Man and X-Men, they were like, the Avengers.
That
sounds interesting.
I will disagree with you on that point. Like now, asking me how many people got the Stephen Strange drop in The Winter Soldier, that's a different story. That's more like what you're talking about. But when fucking this guy shows up and says, I'm here to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, everybody knew who the Avengers were. Man, everybody knew that one.
Let me course correct. What about Thor's hammer in Nevada? That is a little bit more obscure for the casual fans.
A little bit. You're correct. A little bit. But at that point, that was in Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
That was in Iron Man 2. Yeah. So like at that point, people we already know we're building towards the Avengers. Like, by that point, you're correct. People have probably gone on the internet and been like, well, who's in the Avengers? Who are we probably going to see? Da-da-da-da-da. And then when they saw a hammer, they're like, shit, Thor, it's next.
I like to think that when you make a good multi-picture, like, universe kind of thing, I like to give the fans a little more credit and not hold their hands too much with the connective tissue.
Yeah.
I think that was the big fault of the Dark Universe that only made one movie.
You mean showing Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was too much in the first movie?
Wasn't Invisible Man didn't he make an appearance in there too?
I didn't see him. Shit.
I didn't. Fuck you. But no, like they tried to shove way too many connective like threads in that one. And I think that if you can just have the one or two threads and leave it at that and make them like not necessarily invisible, but just like you know they're there, but you aren't quite sure what they connect to yet, I think that makes it more compelling.
I think so too. I think we're both of the agreement that they overplayed their hand in this particular one. I think you have to. I think in this particular scenario, I don't think people know enough about Godzilla's rogues gallery, for lack of a better term, so that if you threw like, oh, there's a picture of a three-headed kind of dragon that seems to be in armor, what the fuck? I don't think people would have got it. But I
would have been hyped though.
Well, I mean, the deep Godzilla fans would have been like, holy shit, yo, we're gonna actually see that guy. That would have been cool. But I think for everybody else, because you have to kind of play a balance of like getting the most, like getting the biggest, casting the biggest net that you can. So I don't necessarily want to hold their hands and show them every single movie that's going to be coming out in the next 6 years. I'm looking at you, DC. God damn it. But
Wonder Woman, look at this email. It's got all the trailers. Wonder Woman, check it out.
I found these sick ass trailers. You want to come see these movies with me? But yeah, no, I would have given one inference to Godzilla, and that would have been it. Like that's where I would have stopped it.
I think we're picking at hairs here, but I agree that we definitely should have minimized it to at least one picture. But hey, you know what? You can tell we like this movie when we're trying to find an argument over the littlest details that don't really matter.
Because we just want to keep talking about it because it was really good and we really liked it.
You know what? So for those who are listening, our production schedule. We're recording this right after doing our DC movies, and so it's kind of refreshing to jump into these movies that we're like really amped to get into. Not that the DC movies were all together completely horrible, but just that these were just like. These are so different from what we've been doing. It's just kind of a refreshing, like, jump into something new, you know?
Yes, 100%. No lie, I was a little worried about what we were getting into when I re-saw Godzilla from 2014. And I was just like, all right, well, at least this will be different. But the monster design was cool. Kong got me hyped for this project. This is really, really good. I can't wait to check out some of the older stuff and Final Wars, which I here is gonna be fucking bonkers, and then we get to go see King of Monsters.
Final Wars looks like it'll be fun, but I'm actually really excited for Shin Godzilla because I've heard a lot of critical acclaim for it. Like, it just sounds like it's right up my alley for a creature feature. So, I think that's everything for the film. Unless there's any questions you wanted to throw in there at the end.
No. I think we've covered all the bases, and we're just gonna devolve into, oh my god, that was a really cool scene when da 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 da, or John C. Reilly with a fucking katana was ridiculous and hilarious.
That was really weird. It was weird but cool.
It was weird but cool. You are correct.
Yeah, well, we should probably wrap up then before those guys. Oh, yep, they're poking their heads in. Yep, still peeing. Just give me a minute, boys. So let's go ahead and wrap up with our mailbag real quick. So shout out to the mailbag if anyone wants to send in stuff to evac. Sorry, what's that email, Ryan?
That is these motherfucking skull crawlers on this motherfucking island at gmail.shit. I'm sorry. It's evacstation@gmail.com.
Okay, good. I thought I forgot it for a minute. Yep, go to that email to email us your thoughts on this movie or any future movies, evacstation@gmail.com. You can also go to Patreon to support our show. You can also go to Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter to keep with us there as well. We post stuff whenever new stuff comes out, as so long as I remember to post stuff. I have to get back on that here really quick. And then also, what else? Yeah, you can also find us on Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, and Peepa for your podcasting pleasure. And remember to review us because it helps us get more views. It's always helpful. I think that's it for this week. So next week, I think on my schedule I originally wanted to do Shin Godzilla first, but I think we should actually do the older movie first. We should probably start with Final Wars and then do Shin Godzilla. What do you think, Ryan?
Oh, well, I mean, you're the boss here. I'm just along to be mildly entertaining.
Fair enough. So then next week, everybody, for those who want to follow along, we will do Final Wars because it's the last Toho production before the 2014 Godzilla. And then we'll follow that up the week after with Shin Godzilla, which is the most recent Toho production after said film. So we'll get to see a good comparison piece there.
How far they've come.
So be sure to tune in for that. And remember that this podcast is brought to you by Monarch. Again, beyond logic lies truth. We'll see you after the credits.
Bye.